The end is the beginning, and the beginning is the end. You sit here, now, listening to these words, certain that time marches forward, tick by tick, a relentless arrow piercing the future. But what if that's the greatest paradox of all? What if the moment you're living has already slipped through your fingers countless times before, and will again, like a shadow chasing its own tail across a sun-scorched plain? You've felt it, haven't you? That shiver down your spine when a stranger's face feels like home, a gaze that pierces through the veil of years, or a dream unfolding with the clarity of a memory you can't place, its colors bleeding into your waking hours. Time, we've been told, is a line, a neat, orderly progression from cradle to grave. But what if it's a circle, a serpent devouring itself, scales glinting in the half-light, an eternal loop whispering your name through the ages? Today, we step through that veil, where the ancient Ouroboros coils around quantum mysteries, where past lives bleed into the present like ink on wet parchment, and where you might just glimpse the truth. You've lived this life before. This isn't a lecture, it's an awakening, a key turning in a lock you didn't know was there. So breathe deep, let the air fill your lungs with the weight of centuries, and let the cycle pull you in like a tide you can't resist. Picture a world before clocks, before the illusion of progress pinned us to a straight path like moths to a flame. The ancient ones knew something we've forgotten, a secret buried beneath the noise of our modern lives. In Greece, the Stoics gathered beneath a canopy of stars, their voices low, their eyes tracing the heavens, not just for motion, but for repetition, a cosmos breathing in cycles, each age a mirror reflecting the last. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, sat by lamplight, his quill scratching across parchment as he wrote. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it, yet he saw beyond the fleeting. Every war with its clashing steel, every sunrise painting the sky in hues of fire, every sigh escaping a weary chest would return, an eternal rhythm woven into the fabric of existence itself. He didn't flinch from this. He embraced it, finding freedom in the thought that each moment, however small, was a thread in a tapestry destined to repeat. Across the sea, in the shadow of the Himalayas, Hindu sages sat in silence, their minds stretching across kalpas, vast epics where the universe births itself from a single spark, dances through creation in a riot of color and chaos, then collapses into ash and silence, only to bloom again like a lotus rising from the mud. Billions of years compressed into a single breath, a wheel spinning endlessly, its spokes carved with the names of gods and mortals alike. And there, in the flickering light of Egyptian tombs, the Ouroboros emerged, a snake eating its own tail, its eyes gleaming with ancient knowing, a symbol older than words, whispering of renewal through destruction, of time folding back on itself like a scroll sealed with secrets. These weren't myths to them, they were maps of a reality we've lost sight of, compasses pointing not outward, but inward, to the cycles we carry within. Now let's leap into the strange hum of the present, where science brushes against the mystical with trembling fingers. Quantum mechanics, our modern oracle, unravels time's tidy thread, pulling at its seams until the illusion frays. Imagine two particles entangled across light years, quivering in unison as if distance were a lie, as if the vastness of space were a mere curtain drawn across a stage. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, his voice tinged with unease. But it's more than that. It's a crack in the facade, a glimpse of something vast and untamed. Retrocausality, a word that bends the mind like a reed in the wind, suggests the future can reach back, whispering to the past with a voice soft as a shadow. Your choices today, each word you speak, each step you take, might ripple backward, folding the timeline into a Mobius strip where cause and effect dance as one, their steps synchronized in a waltz without beginning or end. Physicist David Bohm saw it too, his eyes alight with wonder. A hollow movement, he called it. A universe where every fragment mirrors the whole, where a single drop of water holds the ocean's song, a feedback loop echoing through eternity like a chant in a cathedral of stars. Time doesn't march forward in this realm. It reverberates, a pulse that hums beneath the surface of all things. And if that's true, then this moment, your breath catching in your throat, your heartbeat drumming against your ribs, might be an echo of a life already lived, a note in a symphony you've played before. its melody hauntingly familiar, yet always new. Picture the implications. Every laugh, every tear, every quiet longing isn't lost to the void but returns, polished by the wheel of time, asking you to listen closer, to feel the weight of its refrain. Have you ever woken from a dream so vivid you could taste the air, sharp with salt or thick with the musk of an ancient forest? Feel the weight of a world you've never known pressing against your chest like a lover's embrace? Or stood somewhere new, a windswept cliff, a cobblestone street, yet known it in your bones, as if your feet had traced its contours 1,000 times before? These aren't flukes, fleeting quirks of a tired mind. They're fractures in the loop, cracks where the eternal spills through. In Tibetan Buddhism, the bardo, that liminal space between lives, shimmers with memories of what was and what will be, parried by the soul like embers in the wind, glowing faintly yet fiercely against the dark. A child in India once sat cross-legged in the dust, his small voice recounting a village he'd never seen, naming crooked streets, weathered faces, a life snuffed out decades before his first cry, his words leaving stunned elders grasping for explanations, their skepticism crumbling like dry earth. In the West, a woman under hypnosis trembles, her breath hitching as she weeps, recounting a 17th-century fire, the roar of flames, the sting of smoke in her lungs, her words aligning with dusty records she couldn't have read, a ledger of ash and loss from a time she shouldn't know. Past life memories aren't fairy tales spun to soothe restless hearts, they're threads of the cycle piercing through the veil, fragile yet undeniable. The Maori of New Zealand, their voices rising in chants beneath a sky vast as memory, see time as a spiral, past and future swirling around the now like waves kissing the shore, each turn whispering secrets of what's been and what's yet to come. What if your déjà vu, that jolt of recognition in a stranger's laugh, your unexplained fears coiling like smoke, your sudden joys bursting like stars, are echoes, not glitches, but signals from the serpent's coil? What if every shiver, every unplaceable ache, is your soul brushing against its own shadow, calling you to remember? Let's weave a story from the shadows of myth, a tale as old as the dust it rises from. Imagine a man walking a dusty road under a merciless sun, his sandals worn thin, his eyes heavy with a grief he can't name, a sorrow that clings like dew to the edges of his soul. He passes a tree, gnarled and ancient, its branches clawing at the sky, and stops. Something stirs, a tremor deep within. He's been here before, not yesterday, not in this body with its aching joints, but lifetimes ago, in a skin he's forgotten yet still wears beneath the surface. The wind carries a scent, of olive groves or rain-soaked earth. A voice half-heard, a moment he's lived 1,000 times, its edges worn smooth by repetition. This is Nietzsche's eternal return. A vision so fierce it could shatter you into fragments or set you free to gather them anew. He stands before you, this philosopher of the abyss, his eyes burning with a question: could you bear it? To live this life again, every triumph that lifts your spirit to the heavens, every wound that carves its mark into your flesh, every mundane morning with its quiet coffee and birdsong, forever and ever. Not as punishment, a cruel jest of the gods, but as revelation, a mirror held to your existence. The Ouroboros doesn't just spin in ceaseless hunger. It mirrors, it scales, reflecting a truth you've always known but feared to face. Your life gazes back, daring you to see the patterns etched into its surface, that argument you keep having, words sharp as blades, circling the same wound, that fear you can't shake, a shadow that dogs your steps. Are they new, fleeting storms of the moment, or ancient, carved into the loop like runes on stone, waiting for you to face them with eyes wide open? What would it mean to stop running, to turn and meet them, not as foes but as teachers? The snake devours to renew, and here's where the mystery deepens, where the light bends and the shadows stretch long. In Hermetic wisdom, the Ouroboros is alchemy's beating heart, chaos transmuted into gold. The base made radiant through fire and will. Your struggles, your cycles aren't chains binding you to a wheel of suffering. They're raw ore, rough and unyielding, waiting for the heat of your awareness. Quantum entanglement, that strange dance of particles across the void, hints you're not just caught in the loop. You shape it, your hands trembling on the loom of time. Every choice, each whispered yes, each faltering no, every surrender to what is, every act of courage that lifts you from the dust, bends the arc of the cycle. The Stoics called it amor fati, love of fate, not a passive slump into resignation, but a fierce, unflinching yes to the wheel's every turn, a vow to meet its rhythm with a heart ablaze. Tibetan lamas, their voices soft as prayer flags in the wind, teach that awareness breaks the cycle, not by fleeing into some distant nirvana, but by mastering it here, now, in the marrow of this life. What if the power isn't in escaping time's grasp, but in dancing with it, stepping lightly yet boldly across its coils? The loop isn't your prison, it's your canvas, stretched taut and waiting for your brush. Every time you choose differently, forgive instead of curse, letting the bitterness dissolve like mist, rise instead of fall, your feet finding solid ground. You don't just move forward, you refine what's been, polishing the dull edges of the past into something luminous. Imagine that, every tear you've shed, every laugh you've let loose, not lost to the void but reworked, a thread in a tapestry you're weaving with every breath. Pause here, in this quiet sliver of now where the world hushes and the air grows thick with possibility. Look at your life, not with the hurried glance of habit, but with the steady gaze of a seeker peering through mist. What keeps returning, circling back like a hawk riding the wind? A wound that won't heal, its edges raw despite the years, a scar you trace in the dark, a dream that won't fade, its colors bleeding into your days, tugging at your spirit with a promise you can't name, a pull you can't explain, a thread stitched into your soul, drawing you toward places, people, moments you swear you've known before. What if these aren't accidents, mere stumbles in the chaos of living, but invitations? Soft yet insistent calls from the depths of the loop. Carl Jung, that cartographer of the unseen, saw the unconscious as a sea of archetypes, timeless currents swirling beneath, steering us through storms and calms until we wake to their song. What you resist persists, he warned. His words a lantern in the fog. Stop running from the echo that trails your steps, the shadow that hums your name. Stand still, feet planted on this trembling earth, and ask, what's this teaching me? What lesson hides in the repetition? What wisdom waits in the ache? The Ouroboros doesn't trap you in its coils, it reveals you, peeling back the layers until you stand bare before your own becoming. And in that revelation, you become the alchemist, hands steady over the crucible, turning leaden habits, the weight of old fears, the rust of stagnant days, into golden possibility, a light forged with every breath. Time loops, yes, a serpent swallowing its tail in endless hunger, but you don't have to spin blindly within it. You can evolve, rising through the cycles, threading new patterns into the tapestry, each choice a stitch, each awakening a hue that shifts the weave. Step back now, through the veil once more, that shimmering threshold where the air crackles with the scent of eternity. You've lived this life before, not as a curse to bear with gritted teeth, but as a mystery unfolding, petals falling away to reveal the core. The ancients carved it in stone, on temple walls, in desert sands, their chisels tracing the truth of recurrence. Quantum pioneers glimpsed it in equations, their minds bending around the strange dance of particles that defy time's arrow. And your soul hums it in the quiet, in those moments when the world falls away and you're left with the pulse of something vast. Time is a loop, a mirrored reality where past and future kiss the present in a fleeting eternal embrace. But you're not a pawn, moved by unseen hands across a checkered board. You're a creator, brush in hand, painting across the canvas of the ages, every déjà vu that stops you cold, every karmic echo reverberating through your days. Every ache you've carried like a stone in your pocket is a clue, a breadcrumb scattered by a timeless self calling you awake from the dream of separation. The serpent bites its tail, its jaws closing the circle, but you can step beyond, not to flee into some distant void but to see it whole, to stand at the center and behold the spiral stretching out in all directions. You are the axis, the still point where the wheel turns, and in that stillness lies your power. So what about you, traveler of this winding path? Have you felt the tug, moments where time slipped like water through your fingers, where the past pressed close, its breath warm against your neck, where a stranger's eyes held a memory you can't name yet feel in your marrow? What loops are you caught in, those quiet ruts of habit, those storms of emotion that return unbidden? And what might shift if you face them not as burdens, but as keys, gleaming with the promise of unlockings? Let your thoughts flow, drop them below. Share what stirs in you, for in this space your voice joins a chorus, lighting sparks that ripple through the spiral we tread together. If this resonates, lift it with a nod of your hand, a sign you're with us, and stay close, become part of this journey tracing the coils of time. Reflect on this, let it settle into your bones. You're not just in time, a fleeting guest passing through. Time is in you, woven into your essence, a river flowing both ways. Awaken to it, rise to meet it with eyes wide and heart open. The loop is yours to shape, each step, each whisper, each daring leap, a mark you leave on eternity.